Sequences, example 2. The following rectangular patterns are made from two sets of coloured tiles. So this is term 1, this is term 2, and this is term 3. We want to draw the next two patterns of tiles, write the number sequence for the blue tiles used in each of these patterns, write a number sequence for the total number of tiles used in each of these patterns, write a number sequence for the white tiles used in each of these patterns, and write out the next three terms in each sequence found in part 2, part 3, and part 4. So part 1, draw the next two patterns of tiles. So if we have a look at the base of the first term, we see it is 2 squares across. So there's a width of 2 squares. For the next term, it's a width of 3. And for the next term, it's a width of 4. So for the next one, it's going to be a width of 5 squares across. And the next one after that will be a width of 6 squares across. In terms of the height of the shapes, the first term is 3 squares in height, or 3 squares tall. The second term is 4 squares tall, and the next term is 5 squares tall. So the next one will have a height of 6 squares, and the one after that will have a height of 7 squares. In terms of the blue tiles, there are no blue tiles in the very first term. In the second term, the blue tiles also create a rectangle, and that rectangle has a base, a width of 1 square. In the next term, it has a width of 2 squares. So in the next one, it will have a width of 3 squares, and in the next one, it will have a width of 4 squares. And again, going back to just the blue shape in the center, so the blue rectangles. Again, there's no blues in the very first term, but in the second term, we have a rectangle and it is a height of 2 squares. The next term, just the blue rectangle, is a height of 3 squares. So in the next term, it will be a height of 4 squares, and the next term a height of 5 squares. So it will be a good idea to draw a rough version of the next two terms before you actually draw out the proper ones. But this is what it should end up looking like. So again, the first term, a width of 2 squares, then a width of 3 squares, then a width of 4 squares. So then we have a width of 5 squares and a width of 6 squares. The height, we start off with a height of 3 squares, then a height of 4 squares, then a height of 5 squares, then a height of 6 squares, and a height of 7 squares. Just focusing in on the blue rectangle in the center, we don't have any in the first term. In the second term, we have a width of 1 blue square, then a width of 2 blue squares, then a width of 3 blue squares, and then a width of 4 blue squares. And then for the height, so again, no blue rectangles or squares in the very first term. We have a height of 2 blue squares, then a height of 3 blue squares, a height of 4 blue squares, and a height of 5 blue squares. Part 2, write a number sequence for the blue tiles used in each of these patterns. So focusing just in on the blue tiles, so we have 0 blue tiles in the first term, so 0 is term 1 or T1. We have 2 blue tiles in the second term, then we have 6 blue tiles in the third term, then we have 12 blue tiles in the fourth term, and we have 20 blue tiles in the fifth term. Part 3, write a number sequence for the total number of tiles used in each of these patterns. So in the very first term, there's a total of 6 tiles. So T1 or term 1 is 6. In the second term, we have a total of 12 tiles. So remember here now the colour doesn't matter. So term 2 is 12. In the third term, we have a total of 20 tiles. So term 3 is 20. Then we have a total of 30 tiles. So term 4 is 30. And then a total of 42 tiles. So the final term is 42. Part 4, Write a number sequence for the white tiles used in each of these patterns. So now we're only interested in the tiles around the outside, so not the blue ones in the center, just the tiles around the outside. So there are 6 white tiles in the first term, so T1 is 6. And then just counting around the outside, there are 10 white tiles in the second term. Then again, just counting around the outside, there are 14 tiles, white tiles. And then again, counting around the outside for term 4, we have 18 white tiles. And then we end up having 22 for the 5th term. Part 5, write out the next 3 terms of each sequence found in part 2, part 3, and part 4. So part 2, we had 0, 2, 6, 12, and 20. So we're going to have 3 blank boxes with commas in between. And then we're going to have a look at the differences. So to get from 0 to 2 is +2, from 2 to 6 is +4, from 6 to 12 is +6, from 12 to 20 is +8. So you can see that we're going up in 2s each time. So if we're going to do +2, +4, +6, +8, we're then going to do +10, +12, +14. So 20 plus 10 is going to give us 30. And 30 plus 12 will be 42. And 42 plus 14 will be 56. In part 3, we worked out our sequence to be 6, 12, 20, 30, 42. So we have 3 new boxes with commas in between. Then we have a look at the difference. To get from 6 to 12, it's +6. From 12 to 20, it's +8. 20 to 30, it's +10. 30 to 42, it's +12. So we have a look at the pattern and the differences. So it's +6, then +8, then +10, then +12. So then we'll have +14, +16, +18. And 42 plus 14 will give us 56, plus 16 will give us 72, plus 18 will give us 90. And then part 4, we had 6, 10, 14, 18, 22. So we have 3 more boxes with commas in between. And we see that the difference this time is the same. So this is an arithmetic sequence because the first difference is the same. We'll see more about that later on. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18. 18 plus 4 is 22. So we're going to add 4 to each of the next terms. So we get 26, 30, and 34.